Okay, we'll give it one more minute, then we'll get started. Okay, good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for joining us today. My name is Paula McCain. I am a recovery business advisor for the North Central Texas Small Business Development Center. Today is National Dessert Day and National Grouch Day. Can you really be grouchy eating desserts? Just saying. The SBDC is the leading provider of assistance for small businesses, and we are grant funded, and because of that we can offer our services and our resources to you at no cost. Resources such as today's webinar, which is how to rank well on Google, presented by Eric Spellman. If you would, please put your questions in the chat room, and we'll get to them when Eric says so. Eric is an established leader. An established leader in helping customers meet online goals through practical hands-on application. He's a featured speaker at national technology conferences and has been labeled a technology evangelist. His website consistently ranks at the top of numerous Google searches globally. Eric, thank you so much for joining us today.
My pleasure. Thank you, Paula. Let's get started. Get my screen up and going. There we go. Hopefully y'all can all see that. And let's get started. My name is Eric Spellman, and I want you to know a little bit about me and about my presentation style. Feel free to ask a question at any time. I'm watching the chat bar up there, and if I see a question, I'll try to answer it in that moment. But you can also wait to the end to ask. It's up to you. Now, a lot of you are probably wondering, do I need to write down everything I see on the screen? No. I'm going to be providing my wonderful host a copy of my presentation that they can make available to you. So I don't want you to feel like you have to write down every single point you see flash up here. What I want you to do is to write down the things that apply to you, the ideas you get during this presentation. I promise you will not be bored. Even though this can be a technical kind of presentation, don't worry. If you're not a technical person, you're still going to get all of it out of it. So enjoy, and let's talk about how to rank well on Google. But before we start, we kind of have to define what is online success. You know what I'm saying? What is online success? What does that actually mean? I mean, is it when people say, oh, I'm getting lots of likes on my social media? Oh, I'm getting all these hits or all this traffic on my website. Oh, everyone who calls in says they found us on the internet. How do you measure online success? How do you, as a business person, how do you measure whether it's working or not? Or are you just trusting the vendors you've hired to tell you that it's working? Oh my gosh. Hold on. Can y'all see my slides?
Not yet.
Oh, I did it. I shared it. Let me see. Hold on. Let me see what it says. Let me see. Thought y'all could see it.
It worked just fine a few minutes
It
ago.
did. It did. Let me try it again. Hold on just a second. Yeah, we did it just fine a minute ago. Hold on. Are y'all still there? Or
We
did I
are
lose?
here.
Okay, good. It says it's acting odd, but you should see my slides. Hold on. Let me go back to WebEx. So the WebEx app is acting odd for some reason. I may have to close it and contact y'all back quick. Let me do that real quick. I'll be right back.
Okay, while Eric is doing that, let me tell you something about the SBDC. You can actually access our website and you can register for our upcoming webinars, and we'll cover those after Eric's presentation. You can also get our contact information. You can schedule an appointment with an advisor. You can use a lot of the resources that we already have for you on our website, such as a new one called Size Up. Size Up is where you can get a lot of industry information, local industry information, like looking at competitors in your area, or uh, the number of families that live within a certain mile radius of your business. Lots of really good information available to you. That website is sbdc.nctc.edu. Don't worry about writing that down. We'll be bringing that up later on. Just wanted to mention that to you while we're waiting on the technical issues to start.
Okay, are y'all seeing my screen?
Stop. Yes. Now
Okay,
we are.
good. Okay, good deal. Okay. Okay, defining online success. We have to understand what online success is, and that's one of the reasons we are here. Number one is you have to have a website that converts. Now, what do I mean by that? So many of you think that a website is like, like a brochure or an online billboard that someone on the information superhighway is going to drive by. Gosh, how long has it been since we heard that term thrown out? It's not. You can't think of online advertising the same way as you think of other advertising, like TV or, oh my God, newspaper. So you got to have a website that converts. A website isn't just an advertising piece, it must do something. A website must generate a sale or a lead. Okay. Most of y'all are going to have it generate a lead. And what I mean by a lead is someone based on looking at your website or reading your social media, they will actually pick up the phone and call you. They will email you. They will reach out and talk to you. Okay. In other words, you're converting an anonymous looker into someone who's actually contacting you, a lead. So if your website isn't doing that, if you're not getting any contact from your website, then I'll be honest with you, your website is a waste of time. Okay. You cannot look at a website as a brochure. Now, does your website generate sales? The only way you get to say that it's generating sales is if you actually have a shopping cart on it, where people can actually put in their credit card and order something and then you'll ship it to them. Okay. So when you hear people talk about generating a lead, that's the majority of you, like a realtor or a consultant, because no one's going to sell a house in a shopping cart, right? So the majority of you just want someone to give you a call. The majority of you want someone to come in your store. But for those of you who do have a shopping cart on your website where you can actually sell things, then your goal is to generate a lead. So you've got to have a website that converts. And that's really the first step, because I can send all the traffic to you, millions of people, but if they don't do anything, what's the point? Remember, your goal is not traffic. Your goal is not tons of people coming to your website. Your goal is business. Your goal is leads that turn into transactions, prospects that turn into customers, anonymous lookers who turn into shoppers. That's called a conversion, where you are converting them into what you want them to be. Okay. So please keep that in mind. Now, once you have a website that does that, then you need to get traffic to it. I mean, traffic is important. I mean, what's the point if you don't have traffic? And that's where this presentation is coming in. What we're going to be talking about is getting found, or SEO. SEO is what we call it, and that's short for search engine optimization. Search engine optimization. In other words, making the content on our website, making our website something Google likes and that Google wants to share with other people. Okay, search engine optimization. The only reason you need to remember that maybe is to impress people at parties. Okay, most of us just say SEO and move on. But realize that there's two pieces to this. Like I said, number one, you've got to have a website that does something. And number two, you've got to start sending tons of traffic to it. If you get those two things going, your business will light up. Your business will go crazy with success. Okay? So the question we have to ask is, what makes Google like you or not like you? You see what I'm saying? What makes them like you or not like you? Well, you got to realize what Google's goals are. Google has goals just like you and me. And as a company, they want to be around 10 years from now. They want to be around forever. They want to make money, as every business, including you, wants to do. So what are their goals? Well, their biggest goal is they want relevant results ranked first. Now let me explain why that is. You remember back in the old days of the internet? You know, back in the old days, like 20 years ago, there were lots of search engines. And I mean lots of search engines. There wasn't just Google. Google wasn't the only one. We had Dogpile, we had Alta Vista, we had Excite, we had Yahoo search, we had AOL search, we had Bing. Bing was late to the party. And so the question is, why did Google win? I mean, Google gets 98% of all searches. Did you hear me? 98%. That's why the only one I talk about is Google, because they're the only ones that matter. The other 2% of searches are going to Bing and AOL and Yahoo, kind of split up a little bit there, but it's inconsequential. It doesn't matter is what I'm saying. If you start getting found by Google, I guarantee you'll start being found on Bing. Not that anyone uses it except to look at pretty pictures. So relevant results ranked first is Google's goal. Google, because that's how Google won. That's how Google beat all these other people. People discovered that if they did their search on Google, they got better results. They were more likely to find the answer to their question, the solution to their problem. Google just seemed to turn up better answers for them. That's how Google won. And that's what we're going to be talking about today. Okay? Google wants relevant results ranked first. Number two, they want a plain English interface. In other words, they want you to be able to talk to Google like a person. They don't want you to have to know all these technical terms and Boolean searching and blah, 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 and all this technical stuff in order to talk to a computer, because technically you are talking to a computer and computers don't talk the way we do. So they want you to be able to use normal human English when searching for something and for Google to understand what that means. I remember back in the day, we had to do our searches and we had to know some of the things to type in, like you would type the word and here or the word or here, and you would use parentheses, and it was crazy. Not anymore. Now you can just ask normal human questions. And that brings me to this. The ultimate goal. The ultimate goal of Google is to give you answers, not results. It really is. Answers, not results. Think about it this way. When you do a search on Google, Google's going to give you 10 results back. And what I mean by that is it's going to give you 10 links that you can click and hopefully find the answer to whatever it is you're searching for. It's always going to give you 10. Now, it may surround that with some ads, some paid ads, and some other stuff. Excuse me. But on the first page of results, you're always going to get 10 results. And what Google wants to do, though, is it wants to start giving you answers instead of results. Instead of giving you links to where you might find the answer, Google wants to give you the answer. It's like you can ask Google things like, how old is Lady Gaga? And it will answer you. instead of giving you a link to where you might find the answer, like IMDb or something like that, it's just going to tell you the answer. You see, what Google's trying to be is the oracle, the Greek oracle of old. Do you remember what that was back from high school studies? The Greek oracle was this mysterious entity back in the mythological times that you could ask any question and it would give you the answer. That's what Google wants to be. It wants to be that one group, that one entity, if you will, that you ask a question and it gives you the answer. I mean, that's why they're selling all these little Google Minis everywhere and these little speakers you can talk into. And I know some of y'all are probably getting freaked out, and don't be. This is not a freaked out kind of thing. It's just a technology thing getting us closer and closer to the days of Star Trek, to be honest. So just keep that in mind. When you understand Google's goals, you can understand how to make yourself show up better in Google. So once again, Google wants plain English. Google wants relevant results ranked first, the best results. Okay. But you heard me mention paid ads earlier. What do we mean by paid ads? Paid ads, and I'm just going to spin this slide on it, but you need to understand the difference. When you look at a Google results page, you do a search at Google and it gives you some results. The first results that usually come up are ads, and you can tell they're ads because it actually says ad right next to it. The results that don't say ad are typically what we call the organic results. In other words, those are the results that Google considers out of all the websites on planet Earth probably have the answer you're looking for. But the paid ads are paid by people, by companies, so that they show up for that search. And we call those ads pay per click. Because those vendors who buy those ads are only paying Google, listen up, are only paying Google if the consumer clicks on their ad. In other words, their ads could be seen by millions of people, but if no one clicks on them, it doesn't cost a penny. Google makes nothing. So Google is only making money off of you if you're running ads. Google is only making money off of you if a person is actually clicking on the ad and going to your website or wherever you're sending them. Now, everyone asks, how much are they charging? Okay. Well, usually it's around like a nickel. It starts at like a nickel per click, 5 cents a click, 10 cents a click, something like that. And it goes up. And the way it goes up is based on bidding. In other words, if more than one person wants to show up for a certain search, then whoever's willing to pay the most per click to Google usually gets to be first. That's typically how it works. And so you'll see the cost per click going up depending on the popularity of the search. The most expensive click I have ever seen was a $400 click. In other words, someone was paying Google $400 every time someone clicked on something. Does that make sense? You're saying I would never do that. I would never do that. I would never pay Google $400 a click. Yes, you would. And I can prove it. Google is hearing me. And I can prove it. Basically, let's say that I had a person who was interested in what you sell. Now look at me here. Let's say that whatever it is you sell, I had someone who was interested. Now they don't know who you are. They don't know that you sell what you sell, but I do. And so I go up to you and I say, hey, I've got a person who is looking to buy what you're selling. I will introduce them to you if you give me $1. I can't guarantee the sale, but I can guarantee they're looking for what you sell. Will you give me $1 just for the introduction? Of course you would. Of course you would. Because they're what? A qualified prospect. You see, the only way these ads are showing up in Google is when people are doing searches for those keywords. Does that make sense? So the people actually clicking on your ad are qualified prospects. And yes, you'll pay $1 per click. You'll pay $1 to get a qualified prospect, won't you? And depending on how much your product or service is, and by the way, that $400 click, I don't think I told you, that $400 click was for a very specific model of yacht, a multi-million-dollar yacht. and they will happily pay $400 a click to get a qualified prospect. So I highly believe that paid ads should be a part of every business. We can't just rely on Google to show our stuff first for free all the time. That is a piece of it, and I'm going to show you how to do that. But you should definitely be considering throwing some money at their ad system. It's one of the best things out there, best things going. And you're saying, well, Eric, I don't know about that. Well, yeah, you've been paying money for advertising for a long time. I'm just saying the majority of it now needs to be going towards online sources. The majority of your marketing budget, whatever you're spending actual dollars on, should be in the online arena, because that's where all your customers are finding you now. So keep in mind, a lot of people say, well, $400 a click, won't it burn through my money? No. There's a daily budget that comes into play. And so you basically say, Google, once I've hit $10 a day, cut it off. And so what happens is if you get $10 in clicks, however many clicks that turns out to be, then Google drops all your ads until tomorrow. So you can control how much is being spent, and you can set a daily budget on that. But like I said, organic is Google's favorite. Organic is natural. Organic is free. I mean, that's what you hope to come up on when people do a search, is the organic. Like I said, it costs you nothing. You're not paying Google one dime. And the majority of people trust organic. 90% of the clicks are going to go to whoever shows up number one organically. Did you know that? On the Google search page, 90% of the clicks will go to whoever's showing up number one. The other 10% is going to be divided between, the paid ads and the other organic results. The second page doesn't exist. I'd like to tell people that all the time, because sometimes I say, okay, how are you doing on Google? They go, well, we're at the top of page 2 for that search. Page 2 doesn't exist. And that's the reason I say that is because no one goes there. I had a friend who once told me, he said, Eric, page 2 is like, he basically, it was at what was it? A mortician's conference. Believe it or not, I spoke at a mortician's conference. Okay. And he basically said, page 2 is where results go to die because no one ever goes there. The best place to hide a body is page 2 of search results. Because what ends up happening is people, they search Google, and if they don't find what they want on that first page, they simply change their search. They don't go to page 2. Most people don't. Okay. So I tell people page 2 is irrelevant. If you're not in the first top 10, your goal is page 1. Okay. If you want to know what your goal for SEO should be, your goal is to be on page 1 of Google results. Your ultimate goal is to be number 1, but that's very difficult to do depending on how competitive the search is. If you want to know more about paid ads and whether you should do them or not, I have a video on my website, ericspellman.com. You'll see a link at the end where I have a whole video on paid ads and how you ought to do it. That's all I'm going to say on paid ads in this particular talk. I highly recommend it. I do believe every business should be doing it, but you need to be doing it right. Okay, how people search. Google knows how you search. And if you understand how people search, you can make your searches come up better. You can make how people find you better. You have to understand psychology. I tell people all the time, if you want to understand marketing, if you want to sell more, take a psychology course, because all selling is based on psychology. All selling is based on emotion. All selling is it's not based on logic. You think it's based on logic and people are trying to, make these logical. No. Every time someone buys something, it's emotional. So understand psychology. You got to realize that people type in questions, not keywords anymore. It's no longer about keywords. Everyone talks about, I want to show up for this keyword or that keyword or this search or that. No, it's not about keywords anymore. Google was onto that. They caught onto that really quick. So it's all about questions. I remember one time Google did a test, and there was a big article about this. They wanted to see how people were searching the internet. And they found out that the differentiator was pretty much men and women. Men will search it this way and women will search it that way. And what they found out was the majority of men would type in keywords and the majority of women would type in questions. Which way do you think Google went? That's right, with questions. And so let me just tell you right now, people who are typing questions into Google get better results in Google. Stop typing in keywords, okay? Because Google is a lot smarter than you think. Its computer systems as a whole are pretty much operating like a fifth grader. Can I just tell you that right now? And I know that creeps you out from the whole Terminator movie series. But yes, Google's systems as a whole are about as intelligent as a fifth grader, which means it understands context. Google systems understand what you mean. It understands that lawyer is the same thing as attorney. You follow me? And so it doesn't matter which keyword you're using. It understands context and it understands how sentences are put together. And that's why it understands the difference between asking the word how versus why or when or who. It understands that. So use questions, and that's what people are using. Also, you got to realize that people are using long tail strategies on Google. And what that means is they are typing longer searches in. Remember the old days of Google when you would just type in cars and you would get a list of cars, right? Everyone knows now if you want a specific car, you're going to type in 2007 Jeep Cherokee, white. You follow me? People have learned to type in longer searches because they're more likely to get what they want quicker. We call that a long tail strategy. Okay. And it's based on how people are searching. Stop thinking of these short little keywords like lawyer. These short little, I want to show up for every time someone types in Denton lawyer. You see what I'm saying? No, that's not what we're talking about here. That's not what we're looking for here. So you're saying, well, Eric, how do I find out how people are searching for me? Guess what? You ask them. You ask them. You're going to pull some of your employees, not employees, because they know too much and you know too much. See, I tell people all the time, I tell business owners all the time, you know too much about your company. You are too in the box. You are too smart in order to know how people are searching for you. You've got to realize that every one of your customers is ignorant. Now, I don't say that as an insult. All I mean by ignorant is they don't know as much about your company as you do. They don't know as much about your products or services or even industry as you do. They're ignorant of that. The problem is you're too smart about it. So the words you think people are searching on, they may not even know. A business owner is not qualified to determine how people are searching for them. Did you hear me? You are not qualified to determine on your own how people are searching for you because you know too much. So the key is to ask some customers. I recommend that you pick maybe 5 of your best customers, people who you already know and you're friends with, and you ask them very certain questions. Okay. And we'll get to those questions in a minute. Next, you need to use Google Trends and just Google it. You'll find it. It's totally free. And what Google Trends does is it basically shows you what the popular searches are. It won't tell you how many people are searching for it, but it will tell you that on a scale of 0 to 100, if it's popular or not. And it'll even show you over time how popular it is. Like you can do searches for like Christmas trees, and it will tell you that the highest spike usually starts in November. And then it goes down from there. But just think about this. You always assume, well, people are searching for me on this. Well, go to Google Trends and find out. And like I said, just Google that, Google Trends, and it will get you there. It's totally free. You can also compare searches. Like, are more people searching for this or for that? Are more people typing this or that? And Google Trends will tell you. It's kind of like pulling back the curtain, like the Wizard of Oz, and seeing kind of how Google works a little bit. And it's one of the most useful things you will ever do. And it's most fascinating. If you ever want to know what the most popular searches are in the United States right now, go look. If you ever want to know which political candidate is getting searched on more, go look. It's all there and it's fascinating. But I recommend you use it to help research your own business, your own industry on how people are searching for things. You also need to know how to Google yourself. I tell people this all the time, no one's going to protect your online reputation or your business reputation better than you. and you don't ever need to pay someone to do that. Just know how to Google yourself. And here, I'll give you just a little quick trick on that. Okay. The best way to find out if people are talking garbage about you is by typing in your name, like your actual name, or your company name, and then adding one more word to that. Adding the word, and you're going to laugh when I tell you what this word is, but I'm being serious as a heart attack. You're going to add the word sucks. S-U-C-K-S, sucks. So type in your name and the word sucks. Type in your company name and the word sucks. And the reason I'm telling you to do that is because that is the #1 word used in a negative review, in a negative comment, scientifically. If you want to pull the negative stuff people are saying about your company up, that's what you do. Okay? So know how to Google yourself. Know how to find yourself. Are you even coming up for what you think you're coming up for? So here, we talked about asking your customers. You want to know how people are searching for you? You want to know what they're typing into Google? Listen up. Here's the questions you ask your clients. And remember, I'll be giving this entire presentation to my wonderful host for free, and they can share it with you, okay? So don't feel like you have to write all these down because you're about to see a bunch of text. There's basically 3 questions I want you to ask each customer. You know, your top 5 maybe. Here's the first one. It is, what problem is my service or product the solution to? You got to realize that a huge number of people, they go to Google and they search based on the problem. They have a problem. How do I fix this? You know, things like that. Here's a question. Do you even come up for the problem? Or do you only come up as a solution? You're saying, what do you mean by that? Think about it this way. If you're a plumbing website, you're a plumber. If you don't talk about, you know, plugged up toilets and stopped up sinks, if you're not talking about that on your website, that's what people are typing in. See, they're typing in the problem when they don't know who has the solution. How do I unstop a sink? You need to be coming up for that. Most plumbers think all they need to do is come up for the word plumber. And that's just not the case. Because a lot of people, they're typing their problems into Google looking for the solution. And if you don't talk enough about the problem, you will never show up as the solution. It's that simple. Second question to ask your clients. What question on Google is my service or product the answer to? What question on Google is my service or product the answer to? See, most people still think in terms of keywords. They don't think in terms of what question are people asking. So that's my question here. What question are people asking on Google that your service or product is the answer to? You see what I'm saying? You need to know what that question is, just like you need to know what the problem is. But the biggest question of all that you need to ask these 5 really good customers, the biggest one of all is this one. How would someone search for my company if they didn't know my business name? How would someone search for my company if they didn't know my business name? That question alone is going to get you some very interesting answers. Okay? A good example. I know what an SBDC is, a small business development center. But if you didn't know what an SBDC was, how would you search for it? If you didn't know that was the name of it. You know, if you, I don't know, if you're a lawyer, believe it or not, some people don't know how to look up lawyers. They just know they want to get out of jail. So how would someone search for your company if they didn't know your business name? Okay? If they didn't know the word accountants and they needed someone to help them balance the books, do you even show up for balancing the books? So those are the 3 questions I would ask. And what that's going to do is shed a lot of light on how people on the internet are actually searching for you. And that's the kind of content you need to be focused on for what I'm about to tell you. See, we're getting to the answer here. The secrets to showing up in Google when people search for you. You need to understand how Google works, how all this information actually gets from point A to point B. Okay. There's a little computer program called a spider bot. And I call them spider bots. Google calls them spider bots. They're not like this little robot you see on my screen. They're a piece of software. They're a computer program. And what they do is they crawl around the web. Get it? Spiders, web. They crawl around the web and they land on a website. And they go to, say, the home page of that website, the first page. And what this Google spider bot will do is it will download or copy every word on that page. Every word. And stores it up at the mothership, the Google mothership, if you will. And then what that spider does is it follows every link on that page. And as it jumps from page to page, crawling the web, get it? Gobbling up every word on every page, on every website, on the entire internet, you're basically realizing that Google is getting a copy of the internet, word for word, at the word level, stored on its systems. When you search the internet, you're not searching Google. You're not searching the internet. You're searching Google's database of the internet. And you're only searching the text. Okay? When you search it, the spider bots are constantly out there looking for other changes. Like when you make a change to your website and update it, they're looking at that too. So spider bots aren't done visiting you after they visit you once. You've got to realize that the relevancy is tied to hundreds of variables. So in the old days of the internet, it used to be how many times certain words, keywords existed on a page. Like if I was looking up the New York Mets, then the way Google did it in the past was, when the internet was small, was if there's a web page that mentions New York Mets once, they make the list. If there's a page that mentions the New York Mets twice, they get ranked above the one who only mentions it once. That was how Google figured it was more relevant. They talked about it more. But the problem with that is that a lot of web owners and web designers figured that out. And do y'all remember back in the day when people would type certain words over and over and over at the bottom of their web pages? Just certain keywords over and over and over again. What they were trying to do was influence Google by typing certain keywords in numerous times. And it worked for a while, but then Google figured it out. And Google actually considers that a big no-no. It's called spamdexing. And if you ever get caught doing it, they will delist your website. And do you understand what being delisted means? It means you pretty much don't exist. You might as well take your website down off the internet because no one will ever find you. Don't you dare try to cheat Google. If they catch you cheating, you're done. Okay? And I've seen it happen. Don't let anyone tell you that typing certain words over and over and over again on your website is a good thing. Google will take you down. So Google had to figure out a better way than just count the number of occurrences. So Google came up with a bunch of different strategies. You got to realize that this strategy Google has, this algorithm, this mathematical equation it uses to rank one website over another website is top secret. I don't know the exact equation. If I did, I could take advantage of it. If I did, I could be number one for everything in the world. But it's top secret, and guess what? It changes, and it changes weekly. There's really only a few people at Google who actually know the actual equation. And they won't tell you. They'll lose their job if they do. It's like the Colonel's secret recipe stuff, okay? Google will not tell you what the actual equation is. Now you're probably saying, well, Eric, why am I watching your presentation then if no one knows how it works? No one knows the equation, including me, but there are patterns that are emerging, and that's what we're going to talk about. Also, you're going to be getting phone calls, if you haven't already. Phone calls from people claiming to be from Google. People claiming to be able to rank you better, to help you get to number one. If anyone, listen to me, if anyone ever calls you promising they can make you number one on Google, Hang up. That is a lie. No one can promise you number one on Google, including me. Now, if you do what I tell you to do, will you probably make first page of Google? Yes, I can tell you that right now. But no one can guarantee you number one because, like I said, the equation is top secret. But like I said, patterns emerge. And even Google will tell you how to show up better. You just have to know how to listen to them, okay? Which is what you need to be doing because we're getting to the meat and potatoes of this entire presentation. You have to realize that what Google does is it likes conversational search. And like I said earlier, Google wants to be your Greek oracle of old. It wants to be able to answer every single question. And if it's relevant for a human for that phrase, it's relevant to Google. I remember I've been to a number of conferences where Google is speaking, where someone from Google speaks as well. And no matter how many times I listen, and I love to go listen to the Google people speak because you get little nuggets. And there's always going to be one person in the room who stands up and asks Google, how do I make my website show up better? Assuming that they're going to be told the exact equation. And what the Google person will always say, it's the same thing every time. They'll say, if a human being would see that website as the most relevant answer to whatever was typed in Google, then Google will see it that way. They're trying to teach their computers to rank websites the way a human would. Does that make sense? They're teaching their computers to be human in that regard. So that's why I say, if it's relevant to a human, if your website would be relevant to a human for that search, then Google will probably consider it relevant when people searches it. So once again, context versus keywords. You need to realize that it's no longer about keywords. No longer about keywords. Google understands context. Google understands what a whole bunch of words mean. And I know that sounds creepy, from a take over the world standpoint, but that's what it's coming down to. Google has to understand the sentence you used or the question you used, and then it changes its answer based on the words you used. It's all about context. So what are the SEO requirements? If you want to start showing up good, what are the SEO requirements? Basically, it is content. And by content, I mean text. Text, text, text. Okay? Google doesn't care about pictures. Google really doesn't. It's all about text. So look at the text on your page. Now, what is it about that text that makes Google like it or not? Well, first, the text on your website must be unique. It must not exist anywhere else on planet Earth. And I'll be talking about each one of these, okay? I'm going to be going into depth on each one of these. The text on your website must not exist anywhere else. The text on your website must also be conversational. In other words, it must be used in day-to-day speech. It can't be very technical. And it must be frequently updated or added to. Let's cover what I mean by that. First of all, the text on your website must be unique. What does that mean? Only the first person on Google gets credit. So let's say that you sell items on the internet and you get those items from a wholesaler. Now, the wholesaler gave you product descriptions, okay, for each product that you're buying. If all you do is copy those product descriptions and put them on your website, that's not going to help you be found for those products because the wholesaler already uses that exact description. And probably a whole bunch of competitors of yours uses it as well. You've got to realize that the content, the text on your website must not exist anywhere else on planet Earth. Nowhere else. So people say, well, Eric, can I just go in and change a word here and a word there and it makes it unique? No. You ever hear of the service called Copyscape? Copyscape is the service that colleges use to find out if students are copying their papers from the internet, if students are plagiarizing. What a professor will do is they will submit, and in copyscape.com, you can go to it. Students will, or professors will submit their student papers into Copyscape, and Copyscape will come back and say whether it thinks it was plagiarized or not. And the way it does that is it looks at 4-word phrases. How many 4-word phrases are the same between two documents? And if the number of 4-word phrases is the same, is high enough, it flags it as possible plagiarized. So changing one word here, changing one word there is not going to get you out of this. Is it unique? I tell people all the time, you need to type it from scratch. All the content on your website needs to be typed in from scratch, not copied and pasted. If your content exists anywhere else on planet Earth, you're not going to get any credit for it. Google prefers it to be unique. And I mean unique. So what happens if someone copies your text? Well, it doesn't matter because you were the first. So you're going to get the credit and they won't. So don't worry too much if someone copies your text, unless it's a legal thing and you can send them a cease and desist kind of a deal. But from a searching standpoint, if they copy you, it ain't hurting you. But if you copy them, you're gaining no benefit at all. Second, your content must be conversational. Not only must your content be unique and not exist anywhere else on planet Earth, it must be conversational. And by conversational, I mean 5th grade level. You're like, what is Eric's deal with the 5th grade? I'll tell you exactly what it is. The way we speak to each other is at a 5th grade level. You may not have realized that. When we just speak, go walking up to someone and talking to them, we talk to them at a 5th grade reading level, a 5th grade writing level. And the reason we do that is we don't even use complete sentences many times. The reason we do that is so that you will understand what I am saying without having to think about what the word means. Think about it. I want to communicate as quickly as possible with you using words that you won't have to think about, words you just know and understand. That's called conversational. It's what I'm doing with you right now. I am speaking at a 5th grade level. The problem is we typically don't write at that level. We tend to write at a much higher level. And the reason we do that is something we were taught back in English class in junior high or middle school. You know, when we wrote, our teacher would say, write a half-page paper on this. And so we would write a half-page paper, and we would, as we wrote, we would try to use big words because we knew big words would impress our teacher. And we would go back and replace certain words with big words. And so let me just tell you this, the way that you write is typically, we write to impress. We don't write to communicate. And that was taught to us in high school. And I'm sorry about that. And if that's what you did on your website, if the reading level on your website, if the writing level on your website is anything above fifth grade level, it's going to hurt you. You're saying, why, Eric? Why does Google set it that way? I can tell you exactly why. It's how they became popular. Think about it. That's why you never see a college thesis. You never see a college thesis show up as #1 answer to anything, because very few people can read anything written at a 13th grade level. The words in there are monstrously huge. And Google knows that only a very small fraction of people, listen, a few fraction of people can actually understand that. And that Google does not want to serve up any kind of answers that someone is not going to understand. They want to serve up answers that the majority of the American population will understand, which means what? 5th grade level. In other words, Google does look at the writing level, at the reading level of all of your text. But I'm telling you, it needs to be at a 5th grade level. You're saying, but Eric, I mean, let me just put it this way. Why don't you go look at your own website at some point? Not right now, obviously, but at some point. And if you start reading through it, it's going to sound like you're trying to impress somebody. big words. And I guarantee if you copy it and paste it into, say, Microsoft Word, which will tell you the reading level, it'll tell you it's much higher than 5th grade. And by the way, there's also free websites on the internet you can go to that will tell you the reading level. You can copy and paste some text and paste it in there, and it'll tell you what reading level you're operating at. Just remember that for Google, big words are evil. Big words are evil. Big words are evil. Big words are evil. And that's where transcripts come into play. What I like to do is video. Video is my deal. I do YouTube videos. I have hundreds of YouTube videos out there. I'm excited to announce we just broke 1.8 million views on my videos. And what I did on my website was I would actually type the transcript of them. In other words, word for word what I said. And I put that on there. And the reason I put that on my website, if you ever go to my website, ericspellman.com, and look, you'll see them under videos. The reason I put the transcript, word for word what I said, was there were some people who were maybe at work and couldn't watch videos, and they wanted to see what I said, so I just did the transcript. But what ended up happening was Google suddenly just went bonkers for it. And Google started making me show up #1 for a whole bunch of stuff. And and I couldn't figure it out. It turns out it was my transcript. It was my transcripts doing it, because there was a whole bunch of text. And guess what? Because it's what I was saying, it's unique. And because it's what I was saying, it's conversational. It's 5th grade level. You see what I'm saying here? And I kind of discovered it by accident. But I'm here to tell you, if you do this, if you follow these rules, if you make it unique and you make it conversational, 5th grade level, you will start to see differences. The other thing you need to realize, and this is based on experimentation I've done, is that Google probably won't even give you credit for the text if there's not more than 400 to 600 words on the page. Seriously, 400 to 600 words on a page. Anything less than that, Google says it's not even worth indexing. So Google will probably only index, in other words, to be found on Google, pages that have at least 400 to 600 words on them. So a small little product description ain't ever going to show up. Okay. The final piece in all of this, and it's not really the final, but it's the third big one. Your content must grow. You see, these spider bots are constantly going to your website. And they're coming back to your website going, have they added anything else? No? Okay, I'll come back in a week. Then they come back in a week. Have they added anything else? No? Okay, I'll come back in a month. But if they show up and they go, have they added anything else? Yeah, they added a new blog. Oh, let's come back tomorrow. Have they added anything else? Yes. Well, let's come back in 3 hours. You see, the spider bots create their schedule based on how much you're updating your own stuff. If all you did was have a website put up a year ago and you haven't touched it since, Google hates you. I'm just being direct with you. Google hates you because Google considers stuff that is more up to date, more relevant than stuff put up a year ago. The spider bots notice. And a lot of people say, well, Eric, how often should you be adding to your website? What is the magic number? I don't have a magic number because it's based on how competitive things are in your industry. But I will tell you this. If you're not adding something new to your website at least once a month, there's no point in you even trying, because there will always be something more relevant, more up to date than you. How do you determine your topics? A lot of people say, well, Eric, how do you come up with stuff to even talk about on your website? I run out of stuff. No, talk about what you know. You'll never run out of stuff. Monitor industry news. What's going on in your industry, and give your opinion about it. If some new big piece of news came down the pike, give your version of it, your view of that. Listen to your customers. I'll be honest, of all the hundreds of videos I've done, every single one of them were, the way I came up with them was because I got asked a question. I speak a lot and I get asked a lot of questions. And so, over time, I've discovered certain people are asking certain questions over and over and over again. And that tells me this might be a good idea for a video. That's how I do it. So listen to your customers. Your customers will tell you what you need to be talking about. And of course, spy on your competitors. Do that all the time. Go look at your competitors, see what they're talking about. Now, the fourth thing, and this is not as important as the other three, but it does make a difference for Google in being found, is that your content must be structured. In other words, Google likes seeing that you have like a table of contents almost of all your blogs, and then they're divided into little areas. Like if you were a plumber, you might have, my plumbing video page. And then under that, you may have stopped up sinks, and then maybe 5 videos under that. Google sees that structure and it gives you credit. It understands that structure, kind of like a tree. By creating a logical structure, you're helping Google understand your site. And when you teach Google how your site works, see, that's why I'm not a big fan of like people who just do random blogs on everything out there, because there's no structure to it. But if you create a structure, and like I said, it can be as simple as a web page that gives like I said, just go to my website, ericspellman.com, click on videos. You'll see the structure I set up. And Google understands that. Also remember the rule of 3 clicks. Remember the rule of 3 clicks. You don't want to make it like it takes so many clicks to get to where they're going. I tell people all the time, if it takes more than 3 clicks to get to any page on your website, it's too many. Remember what I've always told y'all, if you've listened to any of my videos or seen any of my other presentations, everyone on the internet, everyone has ADD and they're lazy. They have ADD and they're lazy, okay? And so what happens is, if it takes more than 3 clicks to find something on your website, they will give up. They will not give you a fourth. They've done scientific studies on that. So one of the tests you can do to help you know if your site is structured for Google is, can you get to any page on your website within 3 clicks? Any page. If it takes more than 3, the spider bots will probably ignore it if it takes 4 clicks to get to it. I'll just be honest, that's what someone at Google told me. There are some other considerations. You need to go out and claim your Google business page. Now, they've called it a bunch of stuff in the past. It used to be called the Google Plus page, the Google business page, I call it the business page. Your SBDC counselor will also know what this is. And by the way, this is one of the biggest reasons you need to call your SBDC counselor, is because they can do something here that you can't do very easily. A Google business page is basically where you're teaching Google about your business, kind of where you're located on a map, what your hours are, maybe pictures of your place, things like that. You're teaching Google about your business. Now, in order to set that up, Google wants to know, wait, is this person the actual owner of the business? Are they actually someone who's qualified to claim this business? And the way they do that, the way they test you on that to make sure you are the owner and not just maybe your competitor trying to take advantage of you. The way they do that is they will do one of 2 things. They will either call your main business phone number and give a code over that, and you have to enter that code within 5 minutes, or they will send you a postcard to the address of that business, giving a code as well. The problem with both of those techniques is that there's so many things that can go wrong. A lot of times, if Google calls the main number of your company, it goes to someone who's answering the phone, and they may not know what's going on, and they hear a Google voice come on and say your code is 1234. They're going to hang up going, what was that? And so you lost your opportunity to claim your business page. The other thing is that postcard looks like junk mail, and a lot of times it gets thrown away before it would ever hit your desk. So this is where my wonderful friends at the SBDC come into play. What most people don't know is that Google gives our SBDC friends access to a program on their phone that no one else has access to. It's a special app that allows an SBDC to confirm a business page. To confirm a business page. And I highly recommend you do that. Trust me, I always use an SBDC counselor when helping someone do this because they can do it so quickly. Google trusts them. And so if you haven't even made an appointment with an SBDC counselor for anything, this is the perfect reason to do it. Those appointments are free. They cost nothing. Give Paula or any of these wonderful people a call, and they can get you set up with this. Plus, they know a lot of other stuff too about your business. But they can definitely help with your Google business page and getting you confirmed with Google. Because trust me, people who are confirmed with Google, their websites show up better. They just do. Also, the name of your web page matters as well. I tell people all the time when coming up with your .com, it doesn't have to be the name of your company. It can be the product you sell, because Google looks at that. If it sees that a keyword that someone typed in is in your actual .com, you actually get benefits from that. Not a huge number, because people, back in the old days, people would buy every .com out there hoping that it would help their searches. Google only looks at one, your main web page name now. But if you're coming up with a company, you might consider making it product-based rather than the name of your company. You can change your domain if you want. It's difficult if you've had that domain for a very long time. Your domain name is your .com, like I was telling you. Meta tags, you'll hear some people talk about meta tags, and I know that sounds technical, and I'm trying to keep this non-technical. Don't put too much credit in anyone who says it's all about the meta tags. Showing up in Google is all about the meta tags. That's kind of old information that's not valid anymore. There's still a reason for meta tags, but not for being found in Google. Meta tags are primarily only used now to help Google understand what pictures actually are. But other than that, it's not really helping from an SEO standpoint. Be social media active. Believe it or not, Google actually looks to see if you're posting on social media. Like if you're posting on Facebook, if you're posting on Instagram, if you're posting on some of the bigger social media pieces, if Google sees a lot of activity and a lot of mentions of your .com there, they're going to think that your information might be more relevant because you're more active and you're probably more up to date. I'm telling you, I have a whole presentation on how to do social media, and if you're not doing social media as a piece of this, you are missing out. Google does notice, believe it or not, how active you are in social media. So what's this all come down to? You need to remember the basics, okay? Remember the basics. Number one, content is king. When I say content, what do I mean? Text. It's all about the text. We don't care about pictures. I could have a web page with 100 pictures of a giraffe on it, and Google wouldn't know what that was. It's all about the text. Okay, so content is king. If you want to show up good on Google, that's why a lot of photographers have a hard time having their stuff show up on Google. They really do, because their websites are very visual. Not a lot of words. It's a lot of showing their pictures that they do. Understand how people are really searching for you. Remember, I showed you how to do that. You're going to ask those 3 questions of some of your customers. You are not qualified to know how people are searching for you because you're too inside the box. You know too much. You're going to realize that when your customers tell you, oh, the way I would have searched for you is this, when they tell you that, sometimes it's going to be totally wrong and mistaken. That's how they would do it. Like I said, you know too much. Okay? Let your customers determine how people are searching for you. And also realize SEO is not a one-time thing. It's not a one-time thing where I go in and copy some code, put it in my website, and boom, I'm number 1 on Google. That's not how it works. It's an ongoing thing. You have to constantly be adding text, constantly be adding blogs, constantly be adding content to your website. It's an ongoing thing. Okay, and if you're not posting at least once a month, there's really no point in even doing this. The people who are showing up well in Google know these things. And you can show up well too. If everyone in your city, if everyone in your state is doing terrible at it, even the slightest addition of content could make you suddenly jump to the top. So don't forget that. Okay. Are there any questions over anything I have gone over? Any questions?
Go ahead and unmute yourself and ask Eric your question.
And while y'all are coming up with your questions, I also wanted to remind you that if any of you would like me to give you a 30-minute session on your website and what I think of it and how it could be improved, my wonderful hosts are paying for that. So all you have to do is set an appointment with them, and then they'll get me on the phone. And for no cost at all, I will be happy to give you some consultation on your website and how it could be made better. Can you expound more on your videos with transcripts? Yeah, the way it works is I do all my videos on YouTube. YouTube is the only place to put your videos. And so once my video is done, I then run it through. I don't pay someone to like type what I say. I go through a site, and I believe it's called Temi, Temi. T as in tiger, E, M as in monkey, I, Temi.com. And what it does is I just type in my YouTube URL, and it listens to the video, and a computer gets it like 99% correct. I then post that transcript on my website on a page below the video. If you go to my website, you'll see how I've done it. And that's what Google looks at. Google doesn't watch videos. Google reads text, and it creates a huge amount of text. And if you read that text that Timmy came out with, sometimes it's wrong. Sometimes there's no sentences, and that's okay. 5th grade, okay? 5th grade. So, Mel, I hope that answered your question. And it works. Trust me, it works. And Timmy is real cheap. I mean, real cheap for it to do a transcription. I mean, like a couple of dollars or something, real cheap. You buy these credits, and it's so easy. So, any other questions?
I have tried that with, there's an option in Word that will create a transcript too. And I've tried that before, and it just tells me how bad my accent is, actually.
Yeah, I totally get that. Google is the best, Paula. Google is the best at understanding human speech. I'll just be totally honest with you. I would go with Google every time on that. But Timmy I think Timmy somehow uses some of that in there. Do y'all remember that program, Dragon Naturally Speaking? That was an old program back in the day that you could talk to, and lawyers used it. And you could talk to it and dictate to it, and it would turn it all into text. Well, those people are pretty much gone now. But the technology of turning speech into text is still there, and it's pretty accurate.
I know quite a few people that use that technology. I do have a couple of questions. How long does it take you to actually claim your business on Google? Once you start the process, how long does it take?
It can all be done, and it can all be done within a couple of hours. It really can. I mean, it's very easy. Um,
Okay.
if you don't know what we're talking about, if you don't even know where to start, this is where you just need to go to your SBDC counselor, because they can tell you how to start, and then they can approve it while you're in there. So you can get it done within an hour if you're in the office of your SBDC counselor. If you're trying to do it yourself, you need to allow yourself a lot more time, because you're either going to have to wait for that postcard to come in the mail, or you're going to have to wait for that phone call. So, like I said, it's one of the best reasons to have that initial meeting with an SBDC counselor. I'll be honest, I could not have started my company without the SBDC. I thought I knew what I was doing. I went and met with the counselor, and I suddenly saw all the different ways I could fail, all the different ways my company could go out of business. They saved my company and helped it thrive. So I can't say enough about the help those people will provide you as a small business owner. Will
Really
Google also
appreciate
rank
that.
my? Here's another question. Will Google also rank my product listing in Facebook Marketplace or in Facebook groups? No, Google doesn't doesn't go into that. And I'll be honest, Google, while it notices how much you're talked about there, it doesn't go into those specific areas, because Google and Facebook are kind of like competitors to a degree. And so, no, I haven't seen any evidence that, your products in marketplace make one hill of beans with Google or in Facebook groups. Good
So
question.
does it look for your website, the number of times that you mention your website?
Yeah, what it'll do is it looks for maybe like a page, like a Facebook page, maybe you've set up, which is totally public. Remember, Google can only see things that are totally public. Google cannot go in and see like stuff you type to your friends, on your personal account. All they can see is the public side of Facebook. So they're going to maybe find your Facebook page, which you can list your website there, and that's how it's kind of linking it. And then it can see, okay, when's the last time they made a post? How many posts are they making? How many people are liking those posts? It can see all that. Great question. Other questions?
Brett, you look like you have a question.
I do, and you know that I just like talking, especially when it's there. I have just a few questions here. We'll start
Sure.
with number 23 and work our way backwards.
Let's go. Do it. Do it.
No, no, no. I wouldn't dare destroy everybody's day that way. However, I am looking forward to future conversations with you. The one that stood out to me, and I actually used to have a company back in the early 90s. Yes, I'm old like that. That was a search engine optimization company back when all of the things you just told us today are obsolete. So much for that technology, which is not really necessarily obsolete, but they're just being used in different ways, it sounds like, and not as important as actual content. One of the things that stood out to me was you were talking about how to incorporate problems and solutions. I love that, and I'd like you to expand on that a little bit and give us maybe some tips on how people can incorporate problem solution content in their actual products, not just necessarily selling products, but like you were saying, it needs to be conversational. I'm just curious as to how you could give them some tips on that.
Definitely. The easiest way is to think of how people are searching, like with videos. That's what I do. What is the number one couple of words people type into YouTube? How to, or how do I? You follow me? Those are the number one and number two, I think, beginnings of searches in YouTube. And so, have you ever thought of your company from a how do I standpoint, or how to, or how to fix, or what do I do if? You follow me? People are typing in their problems because they want solutions, and they don't know what those solutions are. And sometimes business owners assume they know what those solutions are. So remember those 3 questions I had you ask your customers. You really need to deep dive on those. What problem does here's the deal. And Brett, I'm going to get in your face for just a little bit here. And I'm going to tell you something that you're not going to like me saying. And here it is. No one wants what you sell. No one wants what you sell. They want the value it brings. And every one of your customers, Brett, every one of the people that you serve need to hear that as well. No one wants what they're selling. They want the value that it brings. No one wants a shovel. They want a hole. Does that make sense? And so when people search, the business owners must realize that whatever they sell, people don't want that. They want the value that it brings. No one wants an SEO company. They want more sales. They want more people, more leads. No one wants a web design company. They want to be successful online. They want customers to find them. No one wants an SBDC counselor. They want to thrive and succeed and grow as a business. So what I'm saying is, start looking at the value that your company brings, that your products bring, and stop focusing on the product itself. Focus on the value that it brings and talk about that, because that's what people are typing in. No one wants a shovel. They want a hole. Does that make sense? Okay. I had someone else ask earlier, I think it was Mel. You mentioned our page should be 400 to 600 words. 400 to 600 words. Is that every page? No. If you want that page indexed on Google, yes. It's only going to index pages that have 400 to 600 words on it. That's all I'm saying. Anything less is not worth its time. And the only reason I said that was for people who had these small little, product descriptions and were wondering why they weren't showing up in Google at all. And it's because the description was too short. Look at Amazon. Look at how big their product descriptions are. Look at how much text is on their page. And you wonder why they show up number one. It's because they understand what I'm telling you. You can compete with Amazon easily. A little motorboat's going to be able to be way more navigational than a big battleship. You'll be able to move quicker, turn quicker. You just have to know the secrets. And that's what this was about. Any other questions?
I have a comment. I've heard you put that shovel hole thing in a different way. You have to find their pain point and figure out how to ease their pain.
Yeah, exactly. What problem does your product solve? People have a pain point and they want that pain to go away. It's kind of like marketing. Marketing, when you market your products, you're going to be marketing towards people. People make every decision on this planet based on one of two things, either greed or fear. Greed or fear, greed or fear. They either want something they do not possess or they want to stop the pain. That's it. Every decision everyone makes on this planet is tied to one of those or both of those things. Like, why do we hire an accountant? Because we don't want to go to jail for tax evasion. Why do we eat? Well, number one, we like to eat, but number two, we don't want to starve to death. You see what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
Everything can be tied to either greed or fear. And if you understand how your product, how your service plays into that, does your product or service, does it, somehow ease someone's pain? Or does it somehow give them something they do not currently possess? Greed? What is it? And it can be both.
Eric, as usual, it's been fantastic. You are always a wealth of knowledge, and you don't mind sharing it with us. If you don't mind, I'm going to share my screen here.
Go for
Just talk about our upcoming webinars. How to attract online shoppers during the holiday season. Can you believe we are coming up on the holiday season? That's with Marcia Hudson. Then we have a new presenter, Melissa Forziat, How to Win at Social Media. Lorna Kibbe is going to continue her series on presentations, slides, and other visuals. Melissa's also going to talk about boosting holiday sales and talk about partnership marketing with that. And then she's going to talk about creating marketing strategy. We have Rebecca Schultz coming back to do one that is going to be fantastic. Financial negotiations workshop for minority and women-owned businesses. So please tell your friends. This will be great. There's our website again, sbdc.nctc.edu, or you can use the QR code in the upper right-hand corner, and that will take you straight to our website. As I mentioned earlier, we are funded, grant funded, and I'd like to thank some of those benefactors right now: the Small Business Administration, the state of Texas, the North Texas SBDC Regional Office, and the North Central Texas College. Thank you to them, so that with their funding, we can bring our services at the SBDC to you at no cost. Eric, again, love it. Always enjoy having you here. A wealth of knowledge. And I want to thank everyone who joined us today. And we look forward to seeing you next week. Join us for Marcia Hudson next week. And I think that is going to end our webinar, everyone. So thank you all, and look forward to seeing you next time.